He's not the loudest star in Hollywood, nor the most controversial, yet his name carries the quiet power of respect. Matt Damon, a kid from Boston who wrote his way into history, turned friendship into an Oscar, and built a career on loyalty, talent, and relentless determination. But behind every calm smile lies a story of risk, rejection, and reinvention. A young man who walked away from Harvard with nothing but a dream and a script that nobody believed in. A friend who stood by another dreamer, Ben Affleck, as they fought to prove that genius could come from anywhere, even from a small apartment with unpaid bills and endless rewrites. From Good Will Hunting to the Bourne Identity, from fame to near burnout, Matt Damon has faced the price of being both brilliant and human. His journey isn't just about success. It's about staying grounded when the world lifts you up too high. This is not just the story of a movie star. It's the story of a man who turned loyalty into legacy. The man behind the legend. Matt Damon's story begins far from the glamour of Hollywood, in the heart of Cambridge, Massachusetts. Born on October 8, 1970, to Kent Damon, a stockbroker turned real estate agent, and Nancy Carlson Page, an early childhood education professor at Lesley University. Matt grew up in a world where intellect mattered more than fame. But when his parents divorced when he was just 2, that world fractured. He and his brother Kyle were raised by their mother in a modest house near Harvard Square, a place filled with books, ideas, and the echoes of Boston's working-class resilience. Money was tight, but curiosity was abundant. Damon often described his childhood as happy but frugal, where imagination replaced luxury. Just down the street lived another dreamer, Ben Affleck. The two boys became inseparable, sharing comic books, ambitions, and the unshakable belief that they were meant for something bigger. Together they escaped into the worlds of movies and make-believe, reenacting scenes, writing short plays, and dreaming of becoming actors. At Cambridge Renge and Latin School, Damon's teachers saw something special. He wasn't the loudest kid in the room, but he was focused, determined. He took every theater role he could, studied scripts like puzzles, and even wrote early screenplays for class projects. When he earned admission to Harvard, it felt like the American dream unfolding. But the pull of acting was stronger than academia. His mother wanted him to finish his degree, but Damon couldn't ignore the calling that had followed him since childhood. He would later say, "Harvard taught me how to think, but the movies taught me who I am." From those early Boston streets to the bright lights of Hollywood, the values of family, friendship, and perseverance would define him, long before fame ever did. At Harvard, Matt Damon was supposed to be studying English, but every page he read pulled him closer to the movies. While classmates chased internships and honors, Matt spent his nights writing screenplays and rehearsing monologues, his mind already halfway to Hollywood. In his sophomore year, he wrote a one-act screenplay for a drama class, the story of a misunderstood math genius from South Boston. It would sit unfinished for years, but that little script would eventually change everything. By the early 1990s, Damon had left Harvard just shy of graduation. He packed a suitcase, borrowed money, and set out for Los Angeles, the city of dreamers and heartbreakers. His early years were brutal. Auditions went nowhere. Casting directors saw another nice kid from Boston, not a future star. But Damon refused to give up. He landed small roles in Mystic Pizza and Courage Under Fire, where he lost over 40 pounds for a minor part, earning critical attention for his commitment, even if it left him physically drained. During these struggling years, he and Ben Affleck clung to their dream like a lifeline. They lived together, shared bank accounts, and rewrote their old college screenplay countless times on cheap laptops and coffee-stained paper. That screenplay, Good Will Hunting, became their ticket out. No one in Hollywood believed two unknown kids from Boston could write something Oscar-worthy. Studios tried to buy the script and replace them with real actors, but Damon and Affleck held their ground, refusing to sell out their roles even when money was running out. Then, against all odds, Miramax said yes. In that moment, two best friends from Cambridge were about to change Hollywood forever. Not with fame, but with heart, honesty, and the courage to believe their story mattered. When Good Will Hunting finally hit theaters in 1997, it wasn't just a movie. It was a phenomenon. Written by two unknown friends from Boston, it spoke with authenticity Hollywood had long forgotten. Matt Damon, playing a working-class mathematical genius torn between brilliance and fear, wasn't just acting. He was living the story of every dreamer who felt out of place in the world. The film struck a chord across generations. Critics praised its heart, audiences embraced its sincerity, and the Academy crowned Damon and Affleck with the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Overnight, they went from couch-surfing nobodies to Hollywood's golden boys. For Damon, it was validation, proof that art born from truth could change everything. But fame, once it arrived, came fast and relentless. Damon's boyish charm and sharp intelligence made him one of the most sought-after young actors in Hollywood. In the years that followed, he delivered back-to-back performances that cemented his range. The loyal soldier in Saving Private Ryan, the haunting con artist in The Talented Mr. Ripley, and the morally conflicted hero in The Rainmaker. He wasn't just another leading man. He was a storyteller, one who brought humanity to every role. Directors admired his humility. Audiences trusted him. The press crowned him the thinking man's movie star. But what truly defined this rise was not the fame, nor the fortune. It was the friendship that started it all. Damon and Affleck, still inseparable, navigated their sudden stardom together, reminding each other where they came from. They were Boston kids at heart, trying not to lose themselves in the glare of Hollywood lights. By the turn of the millennium, Matt Damon had become a household name, an Oscar winner, a box office draw, and a respected artist. Yet behind the calm professionalism, a question lingered. Could he hold on to the honesty that built him, in an industry designed to strip it away? The answer would come soon, as success began to blur into exhaustion, and the weight of expectation grew heavier than ever. Fame can be intoxicating, and even the most grounded stars can lose their footing. After his meteoric rise, Matt Damon faced the quiet but dangerous weight of expectation. Hollywood wanted another miracle, another Good Will Hunting. But what came instead were struggles, not always visible to the public, but deeply felt. The early 2000s were turbulent. Films like All the Pretty Horses and The Legend of Bagger Vance failed to meet expectations. The critics turned cold and the box office losses piled up. Suddenly, the same industry that had hailed him as a prodigy began to question whether Damon's success had been a fluke. It wasn't scandal in the traditional sense. No wild headlines, no destructive behavior. But in Hollywood, silence can be its own downfall. Damon became the target of endless comparisons, media fatigue, and whispers that his moment had passed. Then came the weight of words. Known for speaking his mind, Damon's candid opinions on politics, gender, and social issues sometimes backfired. Misquotes and viral soundbites painted him as tone-deaf or out of touch, sparking waves of online criticism. It wasn't malice. It was humanity. But Hollywood doesn't always forgive imperfection. Behind the scenes, Damon felt the burn of exhaustion. Years of constant work, endless press tours, and living under the microscope had taken their toll. He withdrew from the noise, focusing on family and quietly rethinking who he wanted to be, as an artist and as a man. For the first time since his rise, Matt Damon stood at a crossroads. Would he fade into the background as another Hollywood what-if? Or could he rebuild himself, stronger, wiser, and truer to his purpose? The next chapter would prove that his story wasn't defined by failure, but by the courage to begin again. For Matt Damon, redemption didn't arrive with a single headline. It came through quiet persistence. While others chased attention, he rebuilt his career one honest role at a time. In 2002, the Bourne identity changed everything. As Jason Bourne, Damon redefined the modern action hero, intelligent, vulnerable, and deeply human. Gone were the cliches of invincible supermen. Instead, he played a man haunted by his own past, fighting not just enemies, but himself. The film became a global phenomenon, And suddenly, Matt Damon wasn't just back, he was bigger than ever. The Bourne trilogy transformed him into one of Hollywood's most bankable and respected stars. But Damon didn't stop there. He sought out challenging, meaningful work. The lonely astronaut in The Martian, the righteous spy in Syriana, and the determined father in Ford v Ferrari. Each performance reflected a new maturity. A man who had lived, stumbled, and learned. Off-screen, Damon's redemption went deeper. He became a father and husband, finding stability with Luciana Barroso, whom he married in 2005. Fatherhood grounded him in a way fame never could. It gave his life focus, perspective, and peace. At the same time, he began using his influence for good, co-founding water.org, a nonprofit providing clean water to millions around the world. His activism was never performative. It was practical, humble, and sincere. By the mid-2010s, Damon had completed one of the rarest transformations in Hollywood. From fallen star to respected icon. He had proven that resilience, not perfection, is what defines greatness. He once said, "You can't control success or failure, but you can control the work." And through that philosophy, Matt Damon reclaimed not just his career, but his peace. In an industry built on ego and illusion, Matt Damon's greatest achievement may be something rarer: authenticity. For more than 3 decades, he has remained both a superstar and an everyman, a figure audiences trust because he never pretends to be anything he's not. His impact extends far beyond the roles he's played. To young actors, Damon became a blueprint for balance, proof that you can chase greatness without losing your soul. He showed that loyalty, humility, and hard work still matter in a world obsessed with fame. Colleagues speak of him with quiet admiration. Directors like Steven Spielberg, Ridley Scott, and Christopher Nolan praise his discipline and empathy, the way he elevates everyone around him. George Clooney once called him the most normal guy in Hollywood, and somehow, that became the highest compliment possible. His films continue to influence the next generation of storytellers, from Good Will Hunting's raw emotional honesty, to the Bourne Identity's reinvention of the spy genre, to the Martian's celebration of human resilience. But perhaps Damon's most enduring legacy lies in how he's carried his success. With grace. He never needed to be the loudest voice in the room. He just needed to be consistent, dependable, and real. Matt Damon's story reminds us that integrity can outlast headlines, and that the truest kind of fame isn't measured in awards, but in respect. As the years passed, Matt Damon began to see fame not as a prize, but as a mirror, one that reflected both his triumphs and his truths. He learned that real success wasn't about red carpets or awards. It was about finding peace in who you are when the spotlight fades. At home, surrounded by his wife Luciana and their daughters, Damon found what Hollywood could never offer: stillness. He speaks often about how family keeps him grounded, how the laughter of his children means more than any box office number. He keeps his life private not out of secrecy, but protection, preserving the sacredness of the ordinary. In interviews, Damon's reflections carry the weight of someone who has seen both sides of the dream. He admits his mistakes, acknowledges privilege, and uses his platform for empathy rather than attention. To him, purpose outweighs prestige. His close friendships, especially with Ben Affleck, have matured like fine wine. After decades in the business, their bond has endured the chaos of celebrity, reminding the world that loyalty can survive the storms of fame. Damon often says, "The older I get, the more I realize the only thing that matters is time, who you spend it with, and how." It's a sentiment that echoes through his work, his choices, and his silence. He is no longer just the dreamer from Boston chasing the world's approval. He's the man who finally found contentment, not in applause, but in authenticity. From a quiet boy in Cambridge to one of Hollywood's most respected figures, Matt Damon's journey has never been about perfection. It's been about perseverance. He showed the world that brilliance can come from humility, that loyalty can outshine ambition, and that true strength often lies in restraint. Every chapter of his story, the struggles, the breakthroughs, the doubts, and the redemption, speaks to something deeply human. He didn't conquer Hollywood with arrogance or noise. He did it with integrity, hard work, and a belief that good stories, honest stories, still matter. When the cameras stop rolling and the applause fades, what remains is not the fame, but the legacy. A reminder that greatness is not born in the spotlight, but in the moments when no one is watching. Matt Damon's life is proof that you can rise, fall, and rise again, without losing who you are. Because sometimes the real victory isn't winning the world's approval. It's staying true to yourself when the world tries to change you. This isn't just the story of an actor. It's the story of a man who turned loyalty into legacy and humanity into art.